Discover the incredible, heartwarming lives of ancient China's concubines. 7 hidden roles reveal the strength behind the shadows. Mia sat on her porch, the sun dipping low over the neatly trimmed hedges of her tight-knit suburban neighborhood. Her heart raced as she remembered her grandmother's tale stories about women like those concubines in ancient China who, despite their marginalized status, pulled families and communities together with unwavering strength. These women shaped their destinies, often without recognition, yet their impact was profound. A fire ignited within Mia. She wanted to honor those stories, to breathe life into the unsung heroines of history. But could she do it in a world that often dismissed such narratives? As Mia glanced at her children playing in the yard, laughter echoing like music around her, she felt a tug of determination. Balancing her small bakery, which she lovingly named Heart and Crust, with the demands of single motherhood was no small feat yet. The idea of a community event that celebrated the untold histories of women resonated deep within her. She could feel the weight of her grandmother's legacy urging her to act. But as she approached local leaders for support, a familiar feeling crept in dismissiveness. Women's history? In our community? Why bother? Their snickers echoed in her mind. Each laugh was a gust of wind that tried to snuff out her flame. Mia felt her heart tighten, but the memory of those timeless tales fueled her resolve even more. And then there was her brother, Jake, a whirlwind of ambition and practicality. He thought aiming high meant stepping on family ties, and their discussions often exploded into volcanic arguments. Mia, you need to focus on your bakery, not some pipe dream. This is America, and it's about keeping your eyes on the prize. His words cut deep, causing doubt to surge. Could she risk the life she built for her children for a cause that felt so elusive? As her initial outreach attempts floundered, heartache flooded Mia's spirit. The small gathering she organized barely drew anyone, and those who showed up seemed uninterested. She felt like she was drowning in disappointment, her vulnerability laid bare. In that crushing moment, she confronted Jake head-on in front of their neighbors, his smugness a stark contrast to her raw emotion. Mia, you're not thinking clearly, he roared, but the rage faded to a whisper as Mia spoke her truth. She drew from her family's history, recounting the strength of those women who shaped lives in silence, the importance of unity in their diverse world. Her voice trembling, filled with conviction, Mia pleaded for understanding and connection. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some neighbors nodded, moisture thickening their eyes. Others leaned back, skepticism hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Mia's heart raced. This was the moment she knew she had to win people over. Could her passion bridge the yawning divide between ambition and heritage, between her brother's aspirations and her own heartfelt mission? Tears freshly gleamed in her eyes as she wondered. Would they acknowledge the importance of stories that connect them all, or would their hearts remain shut tight? Mia realized she had sparked something in awakening, a conversation that could stir the roots of their community, but the outcome remained uncertain. With hope and determination surging through her veins, she stood on the precipice of change, her mission still wrapped in questions as she faced her neighbor's gaze. Mia's voice hung in the air, a thin thread connecting her to her audience. The murmurs carried weight. The rustling of leaves felt almost like a heartbeat. She could sense their uncertainty, mixing with her own doubts. Moments slipped by, stretching into eternity. Would they be moved? Or would her words dissolve into thin air like wisps of smoke? Then, from the back of the crowd, an unexpected voice broke through. "I knew your grandmother. She was a storyteller," Mrs. Thompson called out, her voice quivering with nostalgia. The crowd shifted, eyes widening as they turned to the elder neighbor. "She told me stories about the women in her life. They were brave, resilient just like you are now, Mia." Mia's heart fluttered at Mrs. Thompson's words. A wave of warmth washed over her, nudging her towards hope, a sense of unity blossoming in the community. Slowly, others began to speak, sharing their own stories of strong women who had fought silently in their lives, mothers, grandmothers, and even friends who had forged paths in silence. Jake stood silent, his brow furrowed, clearly wrestling with a new perspective. He had always been about the noise, the clear winner in a race driven by ambition. But the tide was shifting, and he felt the ground beneath his feet tremble. Mia glanced at her brother, searching his eyes for understanding. These stories matter, she continued, her voice steadier now, building momentum. They are the threads of our fabric as a community. They weave together our history and strengthen our bonds. We have the chance to celebrate the heroines who are often overlooked. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Mia noticed Mrs. Morales stepping forward, a hint of fire in her gaze. You're right, Mia. We could have an event. A day to honor those women, to share their stories. Excitement buzzed like electricity, and Mia felt the energy shift. Though her heart was still racing, she could see a potential unfolding before her. This could be the moment she had dreamed of, a celebration that merged history with her own family's legacy. The planning began that evening. They gathered weekly in her backyard, leaning over folding tables, doodling ideas onto paper plates. They talked about food that reflected those women's cultures, vibrant decorations, music from generations past, and ways to incorporate storytelling and art. Neighbors shared recipes, laughter erupted, and even Jake began contributing ideas, a new spark igniting in his usual practicality. But just as their momentum built a rhythm, a knot of anxiety tightened in Mia's stomach. What if the event didn't bring the community together as she hoped? What if it was simply a replay of her last gathering, a lonely echo of unfulfilled dreams? One late afternoon, with the scent of freshly baked bread lingering in the air, Mia stood before her oven, wrestling with her fears. She felt a cold sweat on her brow. How would she face them if it fell flat? But then she remembered the stories, the courage they embodied. Just like those concubines who maneuvered life's challenges with grace, Mia realized she too needed to embody that spirit. She took a deep breath, determined not to back down. As she stepped outside, she found her children playing tag, laughter ringing out like a song. A flicker of joy brightened her heart. They're watching me, she whispered to herself, realizing the stakes weren't just about her anymore. This is bigger than me. With renewed determination, she decided to push on, igniting her passion to create the joyous celebration her community had been missing. But little did she know, a sudden challenge was just around the corner, one that would test her in ways she never imagined. Would Mia find the strength to face this new dilemma? Or would the weight of expectation bring her crashing down? The weeks flew by as Mia threw herself into the planning. Each gathering was punctuated with laughter, shared ideas, and a steady rhythm of hopeful anticipation. Her backyard transformed into a hub of activity, full of energy and purpose. But despite the cheerful faces surrounding her, that knot of anxiety remained, twisting tighter as the date approached. As the sun dipped low in the sky one late afternoon, Mia spied a group of women gathered by the fence. They were animatedly discussing their contributions to the celebration. The smell of jasmine mingled with the sweetness of her freshly baked muffins, offering a warmth that danced in the air. "Hey, Mia," called out Mrs. Morales, her face lighting up with excitement. "What do you think of the banner design? We want it to capture the spirit of the celebration." She held up a large piece of fabric adorned with vibrant colors, sketches of women from different cultures interwoven with floral patterns. Mia's heart soared at the sight. "It's beautiful. It really honors the stories we've been sharing. I love it." But as she spoke, doubt spiked within her again. Had they chosen the right direction? Was this what everyone needed? Just then, the door creaked, and Jake stepped out, a look of concern etched on his face. "Hey Mia, can we talk?" He caught her off guard, his serious tone interrupting the mood. She nodded, leading him away from the bustle. "What's up? You look worried." "I overheard some talk at the community center. There are concerns about the event. People are worried it's too much, too ambitious." His voice trailed off, and Mia felt her heart sink. "Too much? I thought everyone was excited," she said, disbelief swirling within her. "This is our chance to bring everyone together. I don't want to rain on your parade, but it's a lot of pressure. What if they think it's just a big show?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. Her stomach churned. "But it's more than that, Jake. It's about honoring our mothers, our grandmothers. It's about sharing our stories. Of course it is, he replied, softening a little. But people can be resistant to change. They have their own pasts, their own histories. You know how close-knit this community is. Mia's chest tightened. She had wanted to build something significant, a celebration that reflected resilience and strength. The idea of it being dismissed felt crushing. What if I can't convince them? What if everything falls apart? Jake sighed, his expression softening into concern. You can't take all this weight on your shoulders, Mia. There are a lot of us here supporting you. As Mia returned to the flurry of preparations, she felt the weight of her brother's worried words. What if this celebration didn't resonate? What if all her efforts crumbled under the expectations she hadn't fully considered? The next meeting, she decided to address the doubts openly. Standing in her backyard, surrounded by the community that had gathered, she opened her heart. I know this is a big dream and I want to be transparent about it. Not everyone believes it's possible. But how can we make this our own? Voices rose in a flurry. Some reassured her of their commitment, while others whispered hesitantly about their fears. Mia felt a swell of emotion. This was the vulnerability she craved, yet she also sensed the looming uncertainty. This was more than an event, it was an intersection of dreams and fears. Just as she thought the tension would unravel completely, a small child tugged at Mia's shirt. It was her daughter, eyes wide with innocence. Mom, can we do the dancing like Grandma used to? The simple question struck Mia like lightning, illuminating the room. Perhaps it wasn't about the grandiosity. Perhaps it was about connections, reminiscences, and the legacy of stories. Absolutely, Mia responded, her voice breaking through the fog of uncertainty. She turned back to the group, resolved. Let us focus on what binds us. Let us honor those stories in our own unique way, fear or no fear. Together, as they rallied around her, camaraderie filled the air. But just as they were finding a rhythm, a sudden, tense silence interrupted the moment. An unexpected figure appeared at the edge of the yard. A frown etched deep on their face. It was Mr. Hastings, the community council member, arms crossed tightly over his chest. I need to talk to you all. There are rules we need to abide by. Mia's heart sank. What could he want? Would the voice of authority now drown out their hopes? Mia's heart pounded in her chest as Mr. Hastings surveyed the group. His stern expression was enough to drain the color from her face. She had expected the community's support to rally around her ambitious event, not a wave of governmental red tape that could douse their dreams before they even began. Mr. Hastings, we were just discussing our upcoming celebration. Mia began, her voice steadying despite her nerves. It's meant to honor our women, our story's celebration or not. There are permits to consider, noise ordinances to follow. We can't just throw a festival in someone's backyard without proper authorization. You know this. He paused, his gaze piercing through her enthusiasm. And with the council's budget cuts this year, I doubt they'll approve anything that isn't more traditional. This community isn't ready for change. Each word felt like a weight crushing Mia further into the ground. The glimmer of hope she had felt only moments before dimmed like a flickering candle threatened by a gust of wind. Her cheeks flushed, but she fought against the sting of tears threatening to spill. But, Mr. Hastings, this is about more than just a festival. It's about bringing us together, healing, sharing our histories. Are those values not worthy? Mia's voice cracked, her passion spilling over. The murmurs from the group grew louder, a blend of apprehension and solidarity. Some grasped their neighbors' hands tight, while others traded whispered reassurances. Mia could see that some shared her frustration, yet others glanced around, uncertain. Mr. Hastings remained impassive. You can't ignore practicality, Mia. The council is already stretched thin as it is. I just want to caution you before you get too far ahead of yourself. You might want to scale this back. A few frustrated voices broke through the crowd, echoing Mia's thoughts. We deserve to celebrate. Why can't we do this? It's our community. Feeling the defiance of her neighbors buoy her spirits, she pushed back. What if we focused on smaller gatherings? An afternoon of storytelling, maybe? We could keep it intimate but meaningful. Mr. Hastings raised a brow. Even those kinds of events require some level of organization. You'll need checklists, food permits. Then help us get the permits. Mia interjected, a new determination rising within her. We can collaborate. This could be a new tradition, something that brings life back to our community. We want to create a space where we all belong. The murmurs grew louder, enthusiasm building. Mrs. Morales stepped forward, her voice steady and warm. I support Mia. We can be the change we want to see. Let us show the council that we are committed. Mia felt the warmth of support surround her. Exactly. We can work together to ensure everything is done properly. It's not just about celebration. It's about connection. Before Mr. Hastings could respond, one of the older women stepped forward, her voice quaking but filled with the weight of years. I remember when our community came together. We used to have potlucks, dances, gatherings that filled the streets. We need this now more than ever. The room filled with nods of agreement. Mia's heart lifted as she looked around at the smiling faces, the determination shining in their eyes. This wasn't just her dream anymore. It was theirs. But just as hope began to blossom, Mr. Hastings' face hardened. There are still regulations to follow. You need to outline the entire plan and submit it by next week. And remember, there may be pushback. Not everyone will welcome this, especially the older members of the council. Mia felt the rush of adrenaline at the challenge. Then let us get to work. We can turn this around. As the community settled in for intense discussions about their contributions and plans ahead, Mia felt a whirlwind of possibility spinning around her. They would take those next steps together. However, just as spirits rebounded, Mia noticed a shadow creeped in the uneasy silence filled with doubt lingering in the atmosphere. She could feel the tension still lingering. Would this really work? Would they find the support they needed? With a renewed fire in her chest, she locked eyes with Jake, who had stood by silently as the scene unfolded. Let us set our meeting for tomorrow, everyone. We'll map everything out. Together. But before she could finish, a voice unexpectedly rose calmly from the back, echoing concerns she hadn't anticipated. What if the council decides to shut us down? How can we ensure they support us? Mia's heart raced as she faced the uncertain future looming over her and the community. Their journey was just beginning, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over. What would they do if the council refused to budge? Mia inhaled deeply, the air thick with a mix of hope and uncertainty. The whisper that flowed through the crowd sparked her determination but also sent a shiver of doubt up her spine. The moment hung heavy in the room as she scanned the faces, some illuminated with belief while others wore the weight of skepticism. Let us not lose faith, she said, her voice steady but her heart racing. We have a chance to reconnect with our roots, to celebrate the women who shaped our community. Imagine potlucks, storytelling circles. But what if the council shuts us down? One voice, sharp and clear, cut through the optimism. It was Brenda, a longtime member of the council. The whisper of her doubt danced like shadows on the walls. They won't welcome change easily. You remember the last time? The arguments, the chaos. The room fell silent again, the weight of Brenda's words snaking into Mia's mind. She felt her heart constrict. Would they really face resistance, even hostility? Change isn't easy for anyone, Mia replied, fighting to keep her voice strong. But we're not alone in this. We have each other. And if we bring our stories and passion to them, maybe, just maybe, they'll see the value in what we're trying to do. Jake, sensing the tension, stepped forward and raised his hands, drawing eyes to him. Let us remember that change starts small. We take this step together, right? Even if we face some pushback, we can show them that our community is alive, vibrant, and full of hope. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Morales nodded emphatically. We can document our progress. Create a presentation that illustrates our gathered stories over the years. Let them see who we are and why this celebration is so important. Mia caught a glimmer of hope. Exactly. A testament to our resilience and spirit. The energy began to shift as people scribbled down ideas and discussed logistics. The room filled with excitement, and even Brenda wore a faint smile by the end. But just as a sense of unity began to rise, Mia noticed one of the younger members, Sophie, looking pale, her fingers nervously twisting her curly hair. "What's on your mind?" Mia asked softly, stepping closer. Sophie glanced around and hesitated. "What if it's not enough? We might present this beautiful plan, but what if they don't care? What if they think our stories aren't valuable?" Mia felt a knot form in her stomach. Sophie's words echoed her own fear, one she had tried to squash. Would they truly dismiss their history, their passion? "Those stories are everything," Mia said, trying to summon every ounce of reassurance. "We're more than just voices in a room, we're a living narrative. And we can show them how important that is. Let us start rallying support now," Jake said, drawing the group's attention again. "We can meet with each member of the council. Get them to listen to us. They might just need a nudge." Mia nodded, her pulse quickening with purpose. "We can create a buzz. Let us host smaller meetings and invite them to attend. They can see exactly what we're planning, how it's designed to bring our community together." The room burst into conversations, ideas flowing like a river. Mia felt invigorated. They were no longer just one voice in the darkness. They were becoming a chorus of hope. Yet, beneath the excitement, a thread of doubt still tugged at her heart. What if this all backfired? As she glanced at everyone working together, a resolve began to build inside her. Let us give this our all, for the women who helped build our community, and for ourselves. When the excitement died down, a familiar sight snagged her attention, a slip of paper crumpled on the ground beneath a chair. Mia picked it up to find someone has scrawled, "Change needs allies, not just dreams." Just then, a loud bang echoed at the door, and the weight of uncertainty slammed back into the room as Mr. Hastings stepped in again, this time with an even graver look on his face. What now? Mia thought, her heart plummeting. What challenge or obstacle awaited them this time? Mia's breath hitched as Mr. Hastings stared into the room. The air shifted, and the vibrant energy that had just filled the space evaporated like water in the sun. Eyes turned to him, uncertainty hanging heavier than the steamy summer air outside. "Mia, I need to speak with you," he said, his voice deep with urgency. He stepped further into the gathering, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow. "And the rest of you need to listen closely." The murmurs died down, replaced by a tense stillness. Mia felt her heart race. What more could he possibly have to say? "Last week, the council received a petition," he began, his tone grave, "from a group that opposes any changes to our community events. They're unsure about your initiative, and they want to stop it before it starts." "What?" someone gasped from the back. A ripple of disbelief spread across the gathered faces. "This isn't just idle chatter," Mr. Hastings continued, raising his voice to cut through the anxiety that filled the room. "They're serious. They claim that your celebration would pit our community against itself, that it would create division rather than unity." "But that's not true," Jake shouted, stepping forward, his fists clenched. "This is about coming together, sharing our stories. We can't let a few voices drown out the spirit of our community." Mia felt torn. She saw Jake's fire, and yet, Mr. Hastings' warning sent a shiver down her spine. It wasn't just about stories. It was about fighting through barriers, about confronting fear, not just theirs, but her own. "We will present the council with everything we've got," Mrs. Morales chimed in, her face set. "Our stories, our experiences, they matter more than someone's fear of change." "True," Mia added, her voice steadier than she felt. "But we need to prepare. If they're going to fight us, we can't just bring dreams to the table. We need facts, and an army of support behind us." "Mia's right," Mr. Hastings said, nodding slowly. "We have to show the council there's a real desire for this. You cannot go in unprepared. If they feel attacked, they will shut you down before you finish explaining." Brenda sighed, her brow furrowed. "So what's our next move?" "We need to rally support, yes, but we also need a strategy." A swirl of ideas erupted in the room, voices overlapping as plans and counterplans clashed. But amidst the chaos, Mia felt a new spark igniting inside her. They were facing an uphill battle, but they were together, and together they would rise. "Let us start with a community meeting," Mia suggested, gripping the edge of the table. "We'll invite everyone, not just council members. Let them speak. Let them hear our stories and feel our passion." "Absolutely," Jake said, enthusiasm returning in waves. "We share what this means to us and why this celebration is essential." We won T back down. Even Sophie, who had seemed so carefully weighed down moments ago, nodded firmly. "I'll help with the flyers. We need to reach everyone, even those who might not feel heard." As ideas flew back and forth, a sense of unity began to weave through the group. Mia's heart swelled. But that whisper of doubt still tinged the edges of her excitement. Would the community truly stand behind them? Just then, a shadow passed over her vision. Mr. Hastings had stepped back to the door, a troubled expression still etched on his face. "You do need to be cautious, though," he warned, his voice low. "There are some who will fight dirty. Remember that." The urgency in his words struck Mia deeply. It was one thing to face hesitation, but what if they faced outright opposition? With resolve settling like a weight in her chest, Mia swept her gaze around the room. "We've faced doubt before. We can't let fear win. This is our chance to show the power of our community." But as everyone cheered, a prickling sensation gripped her thoughts. Beneath their gusto, did she sense cracks forming where shadows lurked? As that question lingered uneasily, Mr. Hastings' expression sent chills down her spine. What struggles lay ahead? Mia stood at the front of the room, excitement swirling in her chest. Yet that doubt still clawed at her mind. The cheers and claps faded slightly, replaced by a low hum of uncertainty. She had ignited a spark, but she couldn't shake the feeling that shadows were creeping in, threatening to extinguish it. Jake, still buzzing with energy, walked over to her. "You did great back there, Mia. They need a strong leader, and you're it." His voice was encouraging, but she could see the worry in his eyes too. "Thanks, Jake. But what if it isn't enough? What if they don't care about our stories? What if Mia—" "Stop it," he interrupted firmly but gently. "We will make them care. We'll show them why this matters. We need to keep the momentum going, and the community meeting is just the first step." She took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlpool of emotions inside her. "You're right, of course. We need to start planning right away. Everyone needs to know just how important this is." With the decision made, Mia rallied the group again, her voice more assured this time. "Let us split into teams. We need one group to handle flyers, another to reach out to local businesses for support, and maybe even one to talk to folks who were hesitant." As they discussed their plans, a buzz of energy filled the room. Ideas bounced around like fireworks, illuminating faces that had been weighed down moments ago. But as excitement grew, Mia felt Mr. Hastings' warning hovering overhead like an ominous cloud, a reminder that not everyone would cheer them on. Meanwhile, Sophie dragged out a large piece of paper to sketch out ideas for the flyers. "We should call it a community celebration for all," she suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. Mia could see the fire in Sophie's eyes and eagerness to engage those who had felt overlooked. "Perfect," Mia grinned. "Let us make sure our stories are front and center. We need to show how much this matters to each of us." As they worked, the laughter and chatter filled the space again, a stark contrast to the tension earlier. But even amid the joy, that weight of doubt huddled at the back of Mia's mind, whispering that not everyone would support their passion. What if there were consequences for standing up? Just as she was about to voice her concerns, the door swung open. It was Brenda, her face taut with worry. "You all need to hear this," she exclaimed, breathless. "I just spoke with Mrs. Jenkins at the diner. She mentioned that she overheard some folks talking about a counter-protest against our community meeting." A hush enveloped the room like a thick fog. Mia's heart dropped. The very idea of facing hostility from their neighbors sent chills down her spine. "What do we do?" Jake asked, concern etched in his features as he glanced around the room, eyes alight with the reality that danger lurked just beyond their excitement. Mia felt the weight of each gaze resting on her. She could almost hear the ticking clock, time slipping away as they stood on the precipice of something bigger than any one of them had anticipated. "All right," Mia finally said, her voice steady yet strong. "We need a plan to not only stand our ground but to win over those who are afraid of change. We can't ignore them if we want to bridge that gap." And yet, even as she spoke with newfound determination, that nagging doubt tugged at her heart. Could they really transform fear into understanding? The room buzzed with renewed energy, but one burning question stood before them, looming larger than life. Would they unify a divided community, or would they risk everything for a cause that might just push them apart? As the group plunged into discussions again, Mia couldn't shake off the picture of fists raised in anger. She may have gathered strength in numbers, but were they truly ready for the battle ahead? Mia stood at the center of the room, the discussions swirling around her like a whirlwind. Fear and resolve fought for dominance in her heart. The threat of a counter-protest loomed, and the faces around her were a mix of determination and concern. "Okay, let us break this down," Jake said, leaning over the table, fingers tapping nervously on the surface. "What can we do to get our community engaged positively before this meeting? We can't let them see us as the enemy. Maybe we organize a peaceful march before the community celebration." Sophie chimed in, her eyes shining with hope. "Just to show our commitment and get people talking, you know? We can invite everyone." Mia could sense the energy building again, but that whisper of doubt still lingered. Would they really come together? "That's a great idea, Sophie," she said, gathering her courage. "But we need to pair it with something that makes our message clear. We can't just march and expect people to understand. We need to share our stories. I can create a video," Brenda suggested, her voice steadier now. "We can share snippets of our lives, why this matters to us, and why it should matter to them. People connect with personal stories. It makes it real." Mia felt a surge of hope wash over her. Maybe they could do this. "Yes. Let us set up some interviews, capture our experiences, and make sure everyone's voice is heard." The room buzzed as they tossed around ideas. Mia's heart raced with excitement. They were a team driven by a shared vision. And yet, beneath it all lay the gnawing concern they were careening straight into a storm. What if the video sparked even more anger? Hours passed in a flurry of activity, paper strewn across tables and voices overlapping with enthusiasm. Ideas were painted in bold strokes, covering fears with the promise of something more beautiful as the sun dipped low, casting a warm orange glow over the room. Mia's phone buzzed, breaking her concentration. It was a message from her brother, Leo. "Are you sure you want to be part of this? Could get ugly." The message weighed heavily on her heart. "Everything okay?" Jake asked, catching the flicker of concern on her face. With a sigh, Mia nodded, tucking the phone away. "Yeah, just some family stuff. You know how it is." But could he really understand? How could she balance their fears with her need to fight for what was right? "Let us stay focused," she urged, suppressing her internal battle. "If we can get even half the people in this town to see the value of our celebration, we may change minds." As the evening drew to a close, they mapped out the next steps. They decreate flyers, design a social media campaign, and film the video interviews. Each plan lit them up with an electrifying energy that felt palpable. But as they wrapped things up, Mia's heart sank again. A sudden thought clawed its way into her mind. What if the protest was already brewing? What if they were pushing against something too powerful to overcome? The group shared laughter and excitement, but Mia felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Just then, the workshop's entrance creaked open. A tall figure stepped inside, casting a long shadow across the room. It was Mr. Hastings. His expression was unreadable. "Can I have a word?" he said slowly, filling the air with unease. The room fell silent, tension settling like dust. Mia's heart raced again. Was this the moment they'd all been dreading? The moment that would shift everything they had fought to build? "Of course," she said, stepping forward. "What's on your mind?" As he glanced around the room, Mia took a deep breath, bracing for the weight of his words. She couldn't shake the feeling that this conversation would change everything. Would it tear them down or build them up, igniting even more passion for the road ahead? Mr. Hastings shifted his weight from one foot to the other, the tension in the room thickening. A few members of the group exchanged worried glances, while others regarded him thoughtfully. Mia felt as if the walls were closing in, the lively atmosphere from moments earlier evaporating into something heavy and undefined. "I wanted to discuss your plans for the community celebration," he began, his voice calm but laced with authority. "I've seen the posters around town, and while I appreciate your passion, I'm concerned about the increasing tensions this might spark." Mia felt her stomach churn. So he had noticed. "We're just trying to create a space for voices that often get overlooked," she said, heart racing. "We believe that coming together could bridge some gaps." Mr. Hastings nodded slowly. "I respect that. But let us not forget that some people in this town view things differently. We have a history of divisions, and these divisions can lead to anger or worse." A wave of doubt washed over Mia. "But we can't just let those fears dictate our actions. If we wait in silence, we'll never make progress." He studied her for a moment, a flicker of respect brewing behind his serious demeanor. "That's true, Mia. But there's a difference between speaking up and igniting a fire. Don't underestimate how fierce the pushback can be." The room felt colder, the warmth from earlier feeling like a distant memory. Brenda leaned in closer, her brow furrowed. "What are you saying, Mr. Hastings? Are you telling us to back down?" "No, not at all," he replied, his voice softening slightly. "But I advise you to approach this with caution. A protest can easily spiral out of control, and you may lose the support of people who might otherwise align with your cause. Community is about compromise." Jake spoke up, agitation creeping into his tone. "But what's the point of compromise if it silences us? We have to stand for what we believe in. This isn't just about us. It's about everyone who feels unheard." Mr. Hastings looked around the table, weighing the fervor of their expressions. "I admire your courage. Just be careful not to let that passion drive you too close to the edge." Mia couldn't shake the feeling that Mr. Hastings was more than just an obstacle. He was a man conditioned by the very fears they were trying to dismantle. She searched for a way to engage him, hoping to shift the conversation into a more collaborative space. "What if we work together?" she proposed, trying to appeal to his better judgment. "You've experienced the town's history, have witnessed tensions before. Your perspective would be invaluable in shaping the narrative we want to share. Help us transform fears into a sense of community instead of division." He paused, the lines on his forehead deepening as he weighed her offer. The silence stretched, a taut string ready to snap. "I'll consider it," he finally said, his voice measured. "But understand, this town has its scars, and those scars run deep. It won't be easy." "Neither is giving up," Mia replied swiftly, meeting his gaze with newfound determination. Just then, the door creaked open once more, interrupting the moment. A shout echoed from outside, rising like an angry storm. "The protest is starting," someone yelled. Panic and excitement rippled through the group. Mia's heart raced. The time had come, but how would they respond? "Stay together," she instructed, looking at each face around her. "Whatever happens, we face it as a unit. We tell our stories." With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Mia rushed toward the window, peering out into the chaotic whirlwind of protesters gathering on the street. The gravity of what lay ahead weighed down heavily on her. Was this a leap into a brighter future or a plunge into darkness? As the chants grew louder, marking the line between unity and division, Mia felt her resolve harden. This was just the beginning. Could they stand firm without adding to the chaos outside? It felt like a moment hanging in the air, fragile yet exhilarating, and she realized that the outcome depended on them. "Let us show them what we stand for," she shouted, her voice rising against the clamor. But in her heart, doubts lingered. What if the day ended with more fractures than healing? The door swung open to the outside world, and Mia took a brave step forward, ready for what lay ahead. A hush blanketed the scene as Mia stepped out into the chaotic swirl of voices. The protest rumbled like thunder, fierce and determined, sending shivers down her spine. She felt the energy radiating from the crowd, both thrilling and intimidating. With every heartbeat, the gravity of the moment pressed against her chest. She glanced back at her neighbors who had banded with her, their faces a patchwork of fear and courage. They had committed to this journey, embraced this vision. There was no turning back. In one resolute motion, Mia lifted her chin, her heart swelling with the stories she had carried, the legacy of the women she sought to honor. "Listen," Mia called out, her voice breaking through the tumult. A wave of silence rolled over the gathering as heads turned her way. "We are not here to fight. We are here to unite." Her words hung in the air, electric and alive. Her neighbors rallied around her, their faces creased with hope as they echoed her resolve. "There's power in our stories," shouted Jake, stepping forward, a fire ignited in his eyes. "These stories matter. They connect us." Around them, murmurs turned into fierce nods, and the clouds of division began to lift just a little. But then, from the edge of the crowd, a voice cut through like a knife, one of the counter-protesters, a familiar face from the local coffee shop. "You think your feeble stories matter? History is built by actions, not tales." The taunt struck a chord, the laughter and solidarity teetering as doubt seeped in again. Mia didn't hesitate. "And what are actions without our past?" she countered, memories of the women who guided her through hardships swirling in her heart. What happened to their stories? What happened to our community's legacy? "We are here to remind everyone that history isn't just about the loudest voices." Her voice trembled but remained firm. Within the crowd, she could see men and women lining up, thoughtful faces beginning to soften. "Let us show you. Listen to us." She pressed on, fueled by the spark of hope that flickered within each person behind her. "Let us share our women's stories. You'll find strength in those tales, strength that can lay a foundation for change." As those words fell like seeds into waiting soil, she felt an energy shift. A few voices rose to join her, sharing their connections to the unsung heroines of their lives. Tales poured forth, narratives richer than gold, stories of sacrifice, resilience, and love. The harmony of pain and triumph tugged at the hearts around her. And just like that, sparks withstood the tempest. People began to share their stories, Mrs. Morales, sobbing yet smiling as she spoke of her late mother's journey through adversity. Children looked up in wonder as their parents shared how love and sacrifice made their lives possible. Mia's heart swelled, each story a luminous thread in the tapestry they were weaving together. Laughter erupted alongside tears as the beauty of shared experience crackled through the air. Even the counter-protesters stepped closer, curiosity piqued. Some exchanged looks of disbelief, while others nodded along, visibly softening. The power of unity transformed the atmosphere into something unexpected, a melting away of anger followed by the emergence of empathy. A young woman from the opposing side stepped forward, her voice shaky but resolute. "I didn't know. I didn't understand. Maybe we all need to hear this." Mia smiled through tears. "Exactly. Together we can bridge this gap. We can embrace our differences and find strength in our stories." Her own vulnerability fueled a courageous wave through the crowd. As the tension dissolved, they all rallied, sharing laughter and tears. It felt like something profound had shifted. The roots of mistrust began to weave seamlessly, sacred connections thrumming in the space between them. It was a moment born of persistence, of stubborn love. With exhilaration rippling across the faces of her community, Mia turned her attention to the members of the council, standing uncertainly at the edge. "You see the change happening here? This is what our community is made of. This is who we are." Awaiting a response from Mr. Hastings, she felt her pulse quicken. He stepped forward, vulnerability lining his facade where hard walls had been. "I can see this is important to you all. My fears and uncertainties are now about more than just the past." She felt a wave of relief wash over her. "You can help too. Stand with us, learn our stories. Let us create a legacy together." Mr. Hastings nodded, the hint of emotion glistening in his eyes. "If we can find a way to work together to meet somewhere in the middle, we could make this community stronger than ever." As the crowd erupted into cheers, Mia felt a rush akin to light blooming after a storm. They had found common ground. Their stories had transformed them. The reign of resistance had passed, replaced by a new dawn filled with promise and unyielding hope. Hand in hand, they would step boldly into the future, not just for themselves but for the generations that would follow. Mia smiled at her children, who stood, wide-eyed, absorbing all that had unfolded. "This is our moment," she whispered, her heart anchored in conviction. And as their voices intertwined, a new chapter began, one where their stories would echo loud and proud, forever intertwining in a renewed fabric of community. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.